ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः। ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। हे कृष्णकरुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्रासुभद्राभ्यां जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। सो भगवद गीता चैप्टर 4 टेक्स्ट 24 we covered up to this point. Is the screen visible? Please let me know. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 text number 24, is it visible? Okay, thank you. So yeah. So we discussed about that what is the true meaning of this verse, and this is susceptible to Mayavadi misinterpretation because some Mayavadi organizations, they also explain this verse as everything is Brahma. Brahmarpanam Brahma Havir Brahmagno Brahmana Hutam Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. So we discussed that. So before proceeding, let me just summarize to what point we are done. So in Bhagavad Gita, we have seen in chapter 1, Arjuna had a few arguments not to fight. So the first argument was compassion. Arjuna was compassionate on his relatives and therefore he did not want to fight. His second point was that there will be no enjoyment if I kill my relatives, and if I become victorious, what is the use? With whom I will enjoy my victory? And the third point was that if I kill my relatives, I will incur sinful activities. And fourth point was that if I kill all these soldiers, their wives will be unprotected, and from such unprotected women will come unwanted progeny. So Varna Sankar will be produced, and Kula Dharma will be destruction of the dynasty. So these are the four arguments by Arjuna. In the second chapter, Lord refutes the arguments of Arjuna. The first three arguments. The argument of compassion is refuted by the Sankhya philosophy of body and soul. Like the series of verses in the second chapter starting from 2.12, Jatu eva ham na Jatu nasam na hum natam neme janadhipa najaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam tatha param. Then dehinosmin jatha dehi kumaram javanam jala tatha dehantaro praptir dhiras tatranam vishati. And then najayate mriyati va kadachin vasam si jitnani jatha vihaya. Like that. This series of verses, Krishna spoke to Arjuna to stress on the point that you are not this body, Arjuna, you are soul. So please do not think on the bodily platform. And please do not consider all these people as your relatives. You are soul, you are eternal, and these all relationships and everything, they are on the bodily platform. So like that, Krishna refuted the argument of compassion, and then Krishna refuted the argument of no enjoyment by telling Sakam Karma, that if you do your prescribed duty, you will be elevated to the higher planets, and there you will get ample opportunity for enjoyment. So there is no point of lamenting that you cannot enjoy. And then Krishna refuted the argument of sinful reactions by Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga. By the practice of Niskam Karma Yoga, if you work with Niskam Karma Yoga, or if you work without being desirous of the fruits of the works, then you are doing Niskam Karma Yoga, and by such work there will be no karmic reactions. So you can be free from all sinful reactions if you do Niskam Karma Yoga. So all these things are discussed in chapter 2. Then we also discussed that why Srila Prabhupada is translating Buddhi Yoga as Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and although Krishna is speaking Buddhi Yoga or Niskam Karma Yoga, Prabhupada is giving us Bhakti Yoga. Because this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita, and the people of Kali Yuga have very less patience. Therefore, Prabhupada has given the essence of Bhagavad Gita in every purport. So we discussed that in detail. And then in the second chapter, last section, the characteristics of a Sthita Pragya, or a person with steady intelligence, is discussed. So I request you, if you have not done through, then just go through all these chapters. Then we will get the understanding. I have made a PPT also, Gita overview. I have shared that with you. So that is also very handy to have a bird's eye view of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so then in the third chapter, okay, let me read from here only. Share this now. Yeah. So this is chapter 1. These are the 4 arguments of Arjuna. In the chapter 2, after Arjuna is surrendering, Krishna refuting one argument that we discussed. In the chapter 3 beginning, Arjuna had a doubt that whether I should do my duty or should I renounce my duty. Then Krishna told them, no, you should do Karma Yoga, you should do your prescribed duty. You are a Kshatriya, your prescribed duty is fighting, so you should fight. So Niskam Karma Yoga is better for Arjuna than Jnana Yoga. And then Krishna is speaking that you should fight, you should do Karma Yoga. And for whom you should work? Jagyarthat karmanonyat lokoyam karma bandhana. For the pleasure of Vishnu you should work. And then as a matter of prescribed duty, the process of yajna is explained. Yajna means doing something for the pleasure of Vishnu. That is actually Karma Yoga. Doing activity for the pleasure of Vishnu. So that is also known as yajna. So the process of yajna is explained, the characteristics and how to do it, and what will happen if we do not do. Yajna sishta sino santu muchante sarva kilvishay bhajate te to agam papa je pachanti atma karanat. So you can read those sections. I am just briefly discussing, otherwise we won't be able to proceed. Then in the next section 17 to 35, first Krishna told that Niskam Karma Yoga is better for Arjuna than Jnana Yoga because Arjuna is not qualified for Jnana Yoga. Then Krishna tells that Arjuna, even if you are qualified for Jnana Yoga, you should do Karma Yoga. Why? Just to set right example for people in general. And then Krishna is giving the example of Janak Maharaj and himself. Right? And then Arjuna understood that okay, everything is fine. And by this argument, by this Niskam Karma Yoga, to set examples, in this section Krishna is also refuting the argument of destruction of the dynasty. Arjuna told that if I fight, the soldiers will die, their wives will be unprotected, and from such unprotected wives there will be unwanted progeny. Now Krishna reverted the statement. He told Arjuna, you are thinking in a wrong way. The point is, if you do not fight, then people will see that being a Kshatriya, you did not fight, you did not do your prescribed duty, then people will follow you because you are a leader of the society. And by these things, people will follow your example and they will also abandon their prescribed duties. And in such way, everybody will abandon their prescribed duties, and then the unwanted progeny or Varna Shankar will be created. So Arjuna thought that by fighting I will create Varna Shankar. Then Krishna is telling no, if you do not fight, if you abandon your prescribed duty, then Varna Shankar will be produced. So by all these arguments of second chapter and third chapter, Krishna refuted all the four arguments of Arjuna. Then Arjuna understood, okay, that's fine, I understood what is right and what is wrong. Then Arjuna asked a question in the last section of the third chapter, that okay, Krishna, I understand that what is right, what is wrong, but what is that factor which impels us to do wrong things in spite of knowing what is right for us? Like you are telling me what I should do, I should fight, and you cleared my misconceptions. So now I know that okay, this is right and this is wrong. But what is that one factor which drives us towards doing sinful activities? Although we know that this is sinful activity and I should not do this, I should do this. In spite of knowing what is good and what is bad, what is the force which impels us to do bad? So then Krishna explains the reason as lust. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Gunasham Udbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidyanamiha Vairinam. So Lord enumerates the characteristics of lust, how to conquer lust. This is explained in the last section of the third chapter. Then in the beginning of chapter 4, Krishna explains about transcendental knowledge. So in the last section of third chapter, Lord has described about how to dominate this lust, how to conquer lust. And the solution given by the Supreme Lord was that by deliberate spiritual intelligence, you can control this lust. And then in the fourth chapter, Krishna is explaining how to acquire this spiritual intelligence. So spiritual intelligence can be acquired by transcendental knowledge. Okay, if you have the transcendental knowledge, then based on that knowledge, you can control your mind. So now Krishna is speaking about the glories of transcendental knowledge. Krishna is telling this transcendental knowledge is coming through parampara. Imam vivasvate yogam praptavan aham abhyam vivasvan manave praha manurixba kave pravit. I have spoken this knowledge long back, like from today. Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago. But Krishna at that time, means 5,000 years ago, is speaking to Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, whatever knowledge I am giving you today, I have spoken the same knowledge 12 crore years ago to sun god Vivasvan. And Vivasvan spoke it to Vivasvan Manave Praha and Manur Ikshva Kave Pravit. Vivasvan spoke it to Manu and Manu spoke it to Ikshvaku. And evam parampara praptam imam rajar sayogitu sa kalene hamahata jogo nasta parantapa. And like this transcendental knowledge was flowing through the disciplic succession, but due to the influence of time, this disciplic succession is broken. Therefore, I am speaking the same knowledge to you again to re-establish the parampara. Then Arjuna asks one question to Krishna, that, oh Krishna, how can I understand that you spoke this transcendental knowledge long back to sun god Vivasvan? Because you are very much similar in age with me, and you have just taken birth with me, and sun god is very much senior to both of us. So sun god is senior and you are very very junior. So how is it possible that you have spoken the same knowledge to sun god? So this gives Krishna an opportunity to disclose about the transcendental nature of Krishna's birth and activities. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo vetti tatvata tyaktadeham punarjanmo naiti mameti sarjuna. Before that, Krishna is telling Ajopishan avyatma bhutanam ishwaropishan prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that Arjuna, You and me both has taken many births previous, but you cannot remember all of them because you are a jiva or living entity, and a living entity is forgetful. But I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have transcendental body. My body is Satchidananda. So I never change my body. Living entities are changing their body in each birth. But Lord does not change his body because Lord's body is permanent. This is Satchidananda. Therefore, Lord can remember all the activities of all his previous lives. Like Lord can remember what he did in Satyuga as Nrsingadev, what he did as Ramachandra in Treta Yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna, and many millions of incarnations Lord is taking, and he can remember everything. He can remember not only of his previous births, he can remember all the births of all the living entities. Therefore, in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is spoken, जन्मदस्य जतन्वयादितरतश्चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरया तेजो वारिमृदं यथा विनिमयो यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परम धीमहि. So on the first line is saying Janmadi yasya jatan vayad itaratascha artheshu abhigya. Krishna is directly and indirectly cognizant of all the activities, all informations of the whole cosmic creation. So that is the nature of Krishna. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam jo vidadhati kaman. So Krishna is the supreme living entity, therefore he can do that. And Krishna is making that distinction. By answering this question of Arjuna, Krishna is making that distinction that I am different from ordinary living entities. I am the supreme living entity. I can remember all my previous lives. I am eternal. You are thinking that I have taken birth, but I am eternal, like the sun. Every day sun rises from the eastern horizon and sets into the western horizon. But that does not mean that sun is taking birth and sun is dying. Sun is just manifesting and unmanifesting itself. So similarly, Lord is eternal. Sometimes out of his own internal potency, out of his own sweet will, he is manifesting in one universe and unmanifesting, and then he is rising in other universe and setting. So like that. Therefore Krishna is compared to sun. Krishna Surya sama maya hai andhakar, jahan Krishna taha nahi maya adhikar. So this is the section where Krishna is Krishna is making a distinction between ordinary living entities and him, and Krishna's birth and activities are all transcendental. In the section 11 to 15, Krishna says that I am the creator and I am the culmination of all paths. Je jatha mam prapadyante tam sadaiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvasya. Different persons approach Krishna in different ways, and Krishna reciprocate similarly. Okay, and this Chaturvarnam Maya system Guna Karma Vibhagasha Tasya Kartaram Apimnam Vidya Kartaram Apayam. This Chaturvarna is created by Krishna only, but Krishna is beyond this Chaturvarna. Then in 16 to 24, Karma, Akarma, Vikarma is explained. Karma means pious activity, Vikarma means impious or sinful activities, and Akarma means devotional service. So Karma, Akarma and Vikarma. Karma means pious activity, Vikarma means sinful activities, and Akarma means devotional service. So we should do Akarma. We should not do Karma or Vikarma. Both are bad. Vikarma takes us to hell, and Karma takes us to hell, but in an indirect manner. Karma gives us some punya, and with that punya we go to Swargaloka, enjoy for some time, then we come back and again go to hell. Because in material world, you cannot do any activity without doing sin. This material world is designed in such a way that you have to do sinful activities. If you are not a devotee, you have to do sinful activities. Like you are drinking water, you are killing bacteria. You are walking, you are killing insects. If you are non-vegetarian, then you are doing sinful activities. If you are vegetarian also, you are killing plants. So in every aspect of our living, we are doing sinful activities. So there is no option other than becoming a devotee. Only if we become a devotee, then what will happen? Karmani nirdahati kintuja bhakti bhajam govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajam. जस्वेन्द्र गोपमथवेन्द्र अपुष्पकर्मा बन्धानुरूपफलभाजनमातनोति कर्माणि निर्दहति किन्तु च भक्तिभाजं गोविन्दमादिपुरुषं तमहं भजामि. From the king of the heaven, Indra, to an insignificant insect like Indragop, from Indra to Indragop, everyone is bound by the karmic reactions in this material world. But there is only one remedy. Karmani nirdahati kintuja bhakti bhajam. If you are doing sinful activities, if you are doing pious activities, both will bind you. But if you are doing devotional service does not generate any new karmic reactions, and it destroys all the karmic reactions which you have acquired in the past. So it frees you from the bondage of karmic reactions and make you eligible to go back to Godhead. So till this point we have done karma, karma, vikarma, and this brahmarpanam, brahma havir, brahmagno, brahmanahutam, brahmaiva tena gantyapyam, brahma karma samadhina. The actual meaning is that if your consciousness is spiritual, then everything becomes spiritual. If your consciousness is spiritual, then if you are doing something for Vishnu, right? That means you are doing some yajna, you are doing some sacrifice. Doing something for Vishnu means sacrifice. So the one who does the sacrifice, he becomes spiritual. Whatever is given in the sacrifice, that becomes spiritual. The result of the sacrifice, that also becomes spiritual if the consciousness is spiritual. So this is the actual meaning of this verse. So now the section 25 to 33, we will discuss about various different types of yajnas to attain jnana. So like this verse 24, Brahmarpanam, Brahma Havir, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, it speaks about some sacrifice. Sacrifice means doing something for the pleasure of Vishnu. And if you are doing it with transcendental knowledge and Krishna consciousness, then everything will become spiritual. And after this section, there will come another effective way to attain jnana. So in 25 to 33, we will discuss about how to attain jnana through yajna. And then in the 34th verse, Krishna speaks about how to directly attain jnana. There is one shortcut method also. Okay, we will discuss that. So let us start from verse number 25. Dvaivam eva pare yajnam yogina paryupashate brahmagno apare yajnam yagyaiva pajuhavati. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of Supreme Brahman. So there are different kinds of yajnas. Some people does not directly worship the Supreme Lord, they worship the demigods. So they are also worshipping the Supreme Lord, but in a indirect manner, in a not this is not a very good practice. We should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. But even if one is worshipping the demigods, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is only the Yajna Purush, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwar. And some of our sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Okay, so demigods and Brahman worship some people do. Those are indirect. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process of the senses in the fire of mental control, and others sacrifice the object of senses in the fire of the senses. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much. So I think now I'm sharing. Yeah. So there are different methods of yajna. Like the brahmacharis, what kind of yajna they do? They sacrifice their hearing process and the senses in the fire of mind control. That means they are controlling their mind and they are thoroughly engaged in hearing the glories and hearing the shastras, and by controlling the senses. So that thing is only presented in a form of yajna. The brahmacharis are engaged in hearing Shastra and they are doing mind and sense control. This is the statement. If you form this statement, uh, if you want to represent this statement in a form of yajna, then the language will be sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mind control. Like an example can be given. We chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So what we do? We utter the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and we listen. Simple. So a yajna form can be given to this one also. We can consider our ear hole has yajna kunda and the Hare Krishna Mahamantra as Ahuti. So we are giving Ahuti of Hare Krishna Mahamantra in the yajna kunda of our ear hole. So that is the yajnic representation of any activity. So the brahmacharis are doing this kind of fire sacrifice. The regulated householders, what kind of fire sacrifice? No, fire sacrifice means yajna they do. So yajna does not mean only fire sacrifice. These are also different kinds of yajnas. They sacrifice the object of senses in the fire of senses because they are allowed to some extent to gratify their senses to beget Krishna conscious children. So they are sacrificing the object of senses in the fire of senses. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of mind and senses offer the function of all the senses and the life breath oblations into fire of controlled mind. So they are Ashtanga yogis actually. So Prabhupada is telling Patanjali yoga system. So different kinds of person. Krishna spoke that Je Jathamam Prapadyante Tam Sataiva Bhajami. So different personalities are approaching Krishna in different fashion. So you read the purports, Prabhupada is giving many insights because we are conducting this only once a week, so we are having less time. So I'm just reading the translations and the bird's eye view. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by the sacrificing their possessions and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing yoga of eightfold mysticism, Ashtanga yoga, or by studying the Vedas, advance in transcendental knowledge. So this is also one kind of sacrifice. Still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint, means pranayam, remain in trance practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into incoming and incoming breath into outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Dhruva Maharaj also did this Ashtanga yoga process to get Krishna in the beginning. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So basically Ashtanga yoga and breath control in a yogic form. So this is also one kind of sacrifice. All these performers who know meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of results of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. So different personalities are doing different kinds of yajna and they are getting different fruits. Like the Ashtanga yogis will have the darshan of Paramatma, and by that they will be satisfied and they may advance more and become a bhakti yogi like that. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of next? So everybody must do sacrifice or everybody must do something for the pleasure of Vishnu, otherwise he cannot be happy. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. So all these different kinds of sacrifices are mentioned in the scriptures and different persons with different mentality pick them up according to their choice. Some pick up Bhakti Yoga, some pick up Ashtanga Yoga, some Jnana Yoga, some Karma Yoga and Hatha Yoga like that. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than the mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So actually here it is spoken that Jnanamay Yajna is better than Drabbamay Yajna. If I sacrifice my material possessions, that is good. But if I cultivate transcendental knowledge, that is even higher. Okay, so this purport someone may read. This is important. Okay, so who wants to read? Nilanjan Prabhu, you can read. Yeah, so someone may simply give charity, or someone may engage one's material possessions in the service of Vishnu. That is good. But if one is not having the consciousness or the knowledge who is Krishna, why I am doing this, like a devotee, if a devotee is giving some charity, or a devotee is offering something, some material possessions to the Supreme Lord, then he is having a proper consciousness that okay, Krishna is the Param Bhokta, I am his eternal servant. So with that knowledge, if one is doing the sacrifice, then it is very good, and actually it will produce more results than Dravyamay Yajna. So if you are having the transcendental knowledge, everything will become transcendental and spiritual. Okay, so that is the essence. So now, up to this point, Krishna has discussed about various different methods of attaining jnana through different kinds of yajnas. Now, this is a very important verse. This is a shortcut method to derive transcendental knowledge, and this is also again um, this is also synchronous to the first section of the fourth chapter. In the first section, Krishna was describing about parampara to attain transcendental knowledge. Again, Krishna is speaking about that parampara only. Tadviddhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadikshyanti te jnanam jnaninastattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So, like Srila Prabhupada and Prabhupada's disciples and all our acharyas in the parampara, these are bona fide sources. These are authoritative sources of knowledge, Sabda Praman. So, if we take knowledge from them, then we can bypass all these different kinds of activities and we can just get the essence in a very short period of time. And what we should do in front of such exalted souls? Tad viddhi pranipatena. We should surrender. Pariprasnena. We should inquire submissively. Sevaya. We should serve such personalities. And being pleased with our service, they will impart transcendental knowledge unto us. And the remaining section, some verses are remaining. The glories of transcendental knowledge has been discussed in this chapter. So we will quickly read those glories and this chapter will complete. Having obtained real knowledge from self-realized souls, you will never fall again into such illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. So by this transcendental knowledge, you can understand that all living entities belong to Krishna. Okay, one translation we can read. Okay, this translation can be read by Susmit Prabhu. Yeah, so even if you are sinful, this transcendental knowledge will guide you and will not let you sink into the nescience of this material world. Okay, this one can be read by Ashutosh Prabhu. Yeah, some sound is coming, bro. Okay, bro, you can, I think, mute yourself. Yeah, okay. So, as a blazing fire turns firewood into ashes, so like that, all our reactions will be burnt. And actually, this goal of transcendental knowledge is to attain bhakti. If you are having transcendental knowledge and with that knowledge you are sitting in one place doing nothing, what is the use of that transcendental knowledge? Transcendental knowledge must lead to bhakti, and by practicing that bhakti, karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhajam, and by doing the devotional service, you will be freed from all contaminations and you will be freed from all reactions of material activities. So that is the true essence. Okay, this one, Vivek Prabhu. Yeah. So if you are practicing devotional service, on the other hand, you will get this knowledge automatically. In Srimad Bhagavatam, there is one verse, 1.2.7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Jad Ahitukam. So transcendental knowledge and detachment will come automatically if you are a devotee. And the goal of transcendental knowledge is to attain devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhugunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. So after many lifetimes, a Jnani ultimately becomes a devotee. Okay, Antray Prabhu. Yes. So this is the result of transcendental knowledge. One attains the supreme spiritual peace. I think everyone is done one shloka, right? Yeah. Okay. So then I can read this one. But ignorant and faithless person who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. So if I doubt, then this is very problematic. Scriptures are the source of transcendental knowledge, and if we do not have faith, then we are very unfortunate. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. You will be unhappy in this world also and after death also. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of the riches. So, the doubts, we have many doubts, and the doubts actually hinders us from surrendering unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna completely. So, how we can clear off all these doubts, which are like the demon Madhu. Therefore, Arjuna is addressing Krishna as Madhusudan because Arjuna has also many doubts, like the Madhu demon and Krishna is Madhusudan, who is the killer of the Madhu demon. So Arjuna is telling Krishna to dispel his demon-like these doubts also. So by cultivating transcendental knowledge, we can uh, destroy the doubts, and then we can completely surrender unto the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance, Krishna is telling to Arjuna, should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. Okay, so this is the end of the 4th chapter. So in this chapter, Krishna is very much focusing on what? Transcendental knowledge. And by transcendental knowledge, Krishna is meaning, actually Krishna is telling the same thing, but Arjuna is not able to understand. Krishna is telling that you fight. Krishna is telling you acquire transcendental knowledge. Krishna is telling you acquire detachment. All these things are similar. All these things are same. If we work for Krishna, we will have transcendental knowledge, we will have detachment. But Arjuna is doubtful that what should I do? Should I cultivate detachment? Should I renounce work? Should I cultivate transcendental knowledge? Or should I fight? So Arjuna is having the doubt. So in the 5th chapter also Arjuna will ask a similar question which Arjuna asked in the 3rd chapter. So we will start from that point onwards. Okay. Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.